What's up, everybody? Welcome to Podcast Now. I'm Alex, and in this video, we got to talk about 007 First Light. It is my joy and privilege to tell you that I think this game looks utterly fantastic. This truly could easily be one of the best games to come out next year. And if you know, GTA is like there, right, and it kind of lingers over all these other games. If GTA was kind of removed, I would really think this game has such a huge freaking chance of being the best game to come out of next year. I am so happy with it. And, you know, the number one thing I think people will say is this is like Hitman, but then like doing James Bond. And it's like, no, duh. This is exactly what this game should be like. And beyond like two issues that I have with this 35 minutes worth of gameplay that we're going to talk about, there's maybe two things. Beyond that, I think this is the perfect blend of Hitman, of Uncharted, and you look at the combat style, kind of also Uncharted, but maybe a little Mad Max or Batman Arkham-like. Like, it is so good, and it's honestly better than I expected, because I thought it would have those action-y sequences. I thought it would be Hitman, but then, well, really with more action. But it's that, and then I would say it's 10 times more. It's more than I truly thought was possible out of this game, and I'm so freaking happy with how it looks. And maybe we can just start there, because that's, you know, visuals is one thing. It's probably not the most important thing, but let's just start there. The game looks beautiful. And I mean, Hitmans have always, I think, looked really, really good for their time. They should get applauded, and they do, for really like being able to put as much on screen as they're able to. We don't see as many moments of that in this, but what we do see really is some sort of substitute, right? Because you see like characters on screen, but where the game, I think, flaunts that it looks really good is the action, is the explosions. I mean, these people need to stop putting explosive barrels like everywhere that they live, right? I mean, that looks really good. The plane chase, getting on the plane, the car chases, like the game really visually pops, and I'm very, very happy with that. Sound design, you know, all of that stuff that can, I guess, make or break a game, but it doesn't have to be the most important thing. I think those things are all there. The one negative, I would say, kind of in that department, I think we do need to talk about the voice acting just for a second. There were some moments where I don't know what was going on. I think they need to go back to the drawing board and just re-record lines. Specifically when he's having the conversation chasing, when they're in the car and they're doing a car chase, it just feels very awkward. There's a lot of weird pauses. It feels like characters are not, like they're supposed to be next to each other in a car, and you would think that they're in voice booths separate from each other where they don't see each other and they're talking. So, you know, there's a couple times that it does that. There's a couple NPCs. I think the one NPC when you take the lighter and you light like the flowers on fire, and it distracts the NPC so that Bond can then do a little Uncharted, you know, like movement type thing. Number one, great sequence, and that's a little Hitman and Uncharted action going together. But that NPC was like, what? Where? It's like it very, almost like early 2000s, where like voice acting is just not the same as it is now. So that is one kind of glaring negative, and I don't think it's a huge problem. I think it could be, just in the sense that, you know, you want the story to be good, you want these characters to have a lot of life to them, and you want Bond to be good. And I don't think he's bad. I don't think he's amazing. He's definitely better than some of these NPCs I just talked about, but you know, you want as good as it can be, because, you know, at times I hope that the story can really push it. And I think with a more action adventure type story, you know, you think about the Bond movies, or you think about like a Tom Cruise in like Mission Impossible, or Nathan Drake in Uncharted, there's a lot of personality there, and I don't sense that, at least right now. So that's just one thing, you know, that I would isolate as an issue. And then the frame rate would really be the only other thing, and it was really only when they were tilting the plane, when you could hack it and then you could tilt it left and right. Super freaking cool idea. And I want to talk about that plane sequence, because it's not even ripped right out of Uncharted. It's, if Uncharted 5 were to be made now, you know that this is exactly what would be in it. And I mean, you might know how much I love the Uncharted franchises. It's probably a top 3 franchise in my entire life. So it means a lot to me. And just the fact that they're doing it and it looks as freaking good as it does is unreal. But, you know, I do want to call out where it needs to be called out. There was some major, and this is just a pre-recorded thing, right? Imagine when the game comes out. Now, game doesn't come out till March. There's a lot of time to iron out these fixes. So hopefully that doesn't happen in the base game. But you can tell, I think, when they're going for the most like high octane action they possibly can, right now the game doesn't seem to be able to catch up with that, which could be a problem. Maybe it's going to be solved by the end. Just to throw it out there too, March 27th. So we called it. I was close. I mentioned like Hitman being in January, and I had talked about, the fact that this game is going to come out, or the fact that I guess they're showing so much about it, right? It's like, okay, it really feels like a first half of next year game. I think end of March is great. That gives it 2 months from GTA. February's packed with like Resident Evil, or actually the end of February, and then 1 month later is Bond. So to me, February, check, March, check, maybe even April too, depending on how long this game is. There's a deluxe edition. You can get 24-hour early access. I think the collector's edition, $300, but honestly, it looks like a really, really good collector's edition. And correct me if I'm wrong, I think the game actually comes in it. Normally, collector's editions has like the case, but not the actual game. I think this one actually has the game. So all that stuff is good. And like I said, those are really the only two negatives I saw. As for the rest of it, I mean, look, the whole thing was 35 minutes. I don't want to make this match that, but I love how they did it. Let me just say that as well. Like, starting it, I mean, it starts the first couple minutes, it's just a car ride, and you have all these characters talking. I think actually that was the best acting, and it was also setting it up, right? Like they're going after like a rogue agent, and it shows a little bit of the personality of Bond, where he's told explicitly to stay where he is, and he sees like a bellhopper, right, doing something that's kind of abnormal, and he even calls it in, and she says like, "Are you serious?" And it's like, he's supposed to stay at his post, but instead he goes in. And so I like that from a character angle. From like what it does for the gameplay, not too much. And the first 10 or so minutes is definitely slower. I think it just gives off the Hitman vibes. I think one thing that stands out, if you want like literal analysis here, the one thing I really liked is beyond, okay, you're trying to find a way into this place, and they took one option. There's going to be others. But the really cool thing that I noticed is when you go through the window and they immediately see you, he talks himself out of things naturally. And later on, after they do the whole plane sequence, when they narrate and they talk through like how you can do things, it seems like a mechanic where if he gets caught or if he gets seen, he's just going to start talking. And that's where I think the game is maybe going to shine, even if the story or the voice performance, whatever, isn't going to be all that good. I think those moments could actually be kind of elite and just a really cool gameplay mechanic, right? But it's like, you get caught, he's going to be able to get himself out of these situations just through like charm and charisma, right? Which is Bond. And it's something that's just really cool to see in a gameplay formula, right? When you get spotted, he's gonna say, like, I think when he said about like through the window, he's like, he was a detective and he was checking out like weak spots of the perimeter, and it's like, well, who buys that kind of that answer? I don't know if I would buy that answer if I were those people, but I'm also not those people. So I do love that. So I mean, I think that just showed a little bit of Hitman flair of kind of like scoping out your area and how do you want to do this, how do you want to get in, while also showing kind of some of the new stuff, even just right away. Some of the new stuff is just really that kind of personality that I think, Hitman, those games don't have that because he's not really supposed to. This one needs to kind of have that. So I liked all that. And then you get to obviously just the chase and the huge fight. Love the combat. I mentioned that earlier. The combat looks so freaking awesome. And it really does remind me of Uncharted. Like you look at how you do takedowns and how like the guns pop out of enemies' hands and you catch it. I mean, I think Nathan Drake literally did that in Uncharted 4 multiple times. So I think that's totally cool. I think the grappling, like parrying thing, and I've said this before here and there, like I'm a martial artist myself, and seeing that kind of stuff, there were some really nice hand-to-hand moves that he was doing that I just kind of appreciate the fact that that's in there. So I thought that was all cool. Using like throwing enemies when you land on the enemy, when you're outside right before the plane and you like push the enemy off and you land on them. Again, a lot of this stuff is like, man, I need an Uncharted. To be honest with you, I need it because, like I said, I don't even really think half of it is stealing. I think it's like these are general ideas that Uncharted did 10 years. Uncharted 4 is about to be 10 years old, right? So it's like these are things that these games were doing, and Naughty Dog, I guess, kind of in general. And it's like, okay, well, what if you kept making these games? What if these games came out now? This is what it would look like. This is what a chase sequence would look like. This is how hand-to-hand combat might look like. So I just thought it was so good. The gunplay, I think, honestly, honestly really surprised me, because you think about Hitman and it's very static. It's very, very heavy, and again, purposefully. And I think it almost looks like you can see those moments, but then oftentimes it's not like that. When Bond is doing platforming, or when he's like shimmying across like a rail or whatever, like it looks way more the fluidity of an Uncharted than it does like a Hitman. So I'm pleased with that, because you kind of want the system of Hitman, and then it to probably be more like an Uncharted action movie type thing, which is what it looks like. So the plane itself, throwing people off the plane, all of that's incredible. Like I said, tilting the plane I think is a good concept, and it can look good. I just think that the trailer or the video didn't really hold up with that. And then there's all the explaining they did, which I don't know, I really like that. I like the entire thing, to be honest with you. The choices, right? The amount of things that you can actually do in this game. And this is that Hitman formula that you would have expected, to be in this game. I guess the one thing that caught my attention with that is, the stuff that you do around the world kind of builds your gauge. And the gauge is what you're using to do all of these special things. Like you have your gadgets, right? You can only, I think, use that laser thing like 3 times, or you only have 2 or 3 darts to take somebody out. But a lot of the other stuff, like I think when they were barricading the door, they broke the door, they had talked about like that was something that took points. And when you're going around collecting stuff, you're gaining points. And then you're going to use points naturally in the environment to do whatever, whether it's to sabotage something or get around somebody or talk your way through it. There's just, I really enjoyed that last, 6, 7, 8 minutes, because that was, okay, this is more, the beginning was, I think, more Uncharted, and this is what Hitman does. But then you mix in with the action. There's never been so many explosions in a Hitman game before, right? Again, the way of talking yourself out of situations, the one way of like taking out that one guard, and then there's the 2 security, and you could break the chandelier, or you could do like the smoke bomb, or you could just walk down the stairs and talk your way out of it, and they'll believe you, right? He talks about like, hey, there's somebody dressed up like us, like just be on the lookout. Ironic that then they say like, oh, we'll look out for them, even though that's you. He's talking about himself. So, I like that kind of, hey, you can choose how you want to do it. And I think, Hitman has perfected that, right? With the amount of people on screen, with the amount of things that are kind of living in real time. If you've forgotten how good really the entire trilogy, I think Hitman 3 is probably the best, but some people prefer maps in 1 or 2. But you play that trilogy, and it's like, if you just gave me that, and then you made it a little bit more action-y for Bond, that would have been fine. But instead, and what I actually like about the first 20 minutes is that it was all, when I say on rails, what I mean is like one thing after the next, right? Like they did skip some stuff when you are looking at like the auction or whatever that is, and everybody's sitting down. There's a cut from that to then when you're chasing, right, in the car. So something happens there, but I do like the idea of like, okay, the mission starts, and it's more of like a kind of bare bones Hitman thing. Like it's not the biggest area of all time. You don't have 30,000 things to do. You kind of just have one objective, and it's just how you get into the building. Okay, now you mess around there, and it's more story. And then after that, okay, now you have a car chase. Okay, after that, now it's a gunfight. Now it's Uncharted, right? Then you do the plane thing. So now it really is like an on-rails action-y thing. And then after that, that kind of sequence is over, and that's like a 20-plus minute sequence. And, you mix that with like the ending, how it's, 4, 5, 6 minutes of kind of just stealthing your way or handling the situation the way you want to handle it. You combine all of those things, and I just feel that flow is kind of what I'm looking for, if that makes sense, for this game. So I am, like I said, to end it, I am so impressed. I really, really am. I knew it was going to be good. Like I thought it was going to be good, and I can imagine what I wanted to see and like what I was expecting. It was that. I nailed it in my head, but it's more. It's more than I thought it would be. It definitely leans more into the Uncharted, or even like Mafia: The Old Country just came out. It reminds me of that as well. Again, hand-to-hand combat, very Mad Max kind of heavy, but like kind of grapple style type stuff. So it's mixing a couple different styles that I didn't even think they were capable of doing, or not even capable. I just didn't think they would, because they're so good at what they do. Are they really going to add like 3, 4 different things in? The answer answer is yes. The answer is they're keeping the Hitman stuff that's like nearly perfect, and then they're adding, 2 or 3 or 4 other things from big games that are very good, and they're throwing it all together in one game. So I have a lot of confidence in this game. I think they have a lot of confidence in the game, to be honest with you, and I cannot wait to play it. So let me know what you guys think in the comments. Make sure, as always, you're subscribed to the channel, bell icon turned on, and I hope to see you all on the next one.